All right, so today we're going to build a log bed. We're going to assemble one here in our showroom to show you how they go together. So the first thing we need are a few tools. Rubber mallet is helpful when initially putting the log bed together. A socket wrench is also helpful. One thing you're absolutely going to need is a 9/16 deep socket. And another helpful tool will be this thing called a socket adapter. It's something you could pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it just attaches, as you can see, to a drill. And then you put your socket on top of that. That'll save you some time when putting this bed together. So I've got an electric drill. This is a 1/2-inch drill. That should have enough power to do it. You really want a low speed, high torque drill. You don't want a high speed drill because it's not going to have the power to drive those lag screws in. But maybe it'll get you part way in and you can finish it off by hand with the socket wrench. Another option here is a cordless drill. We've got a socket on that. What we're going to do is go as far as we can with the cordless, and then I'm going to switch over to the electric drill just to kind of show you a few different options. Then of course I've got my extension cord here as well. Let's take a look at the parts that are required. Of course, we've got our headboard here. This happens to be a grizzly bed, and this is a queen size. And then over here we've got our footboard. So the first thing I want to do is set them up in the room at the approximate location where they're going to be permanently. These beds will move after they're assembled. Of course, it's going to be easier to set them up as close to where they're going to be beforehand. So I've got a wall here, and I'm going to utilize this wall to get this bed set up. I'm going to try to show you how to do this by myself. So if you happen to be doing this solo, it is possible to set up this bed by yourself. So over here, I've got my 3 bed slats. Attached to them, we have lag screws and plugs, each in separate bags. So here we've got our 8 lag screws. These are 3/8 diameter, 6-inch long, with washers attached. The other bag contains the plugs, that will be the very last step that we do. We will put the plugs in after we've lag screwed the bed together. There's a plug for you. So I'm going to put these aside for now. And we have lower side rails, which will go into the lower holes, and upper side rails, which will go into the upper holes. The lower side rails, if you look on the ends, they should have a letter and a number right over here. So I'm going to look at the end of the rail, and this one says 16D. So I'm going to go around and look and see where is 16D inside the hole. And I found it, it's right here. So I know that in the shop, this rail was set up like so. So I'm going to put it in there. I've got my headboard that's leaning slightly against the wall, so that's keeping the headboard standing. And I'm going to bring my footboard to my rail, like so. The next step is to find the other rail, the lower rail, and check the ends. And here I've got a 16C, so I know that that goes at the footboard end. So this must go at the headboard. So I'm going to set this inside the hole like so. Let it sit there. Now I'm going to grab my slats and start fitting them in. As we look at our slats, they're all numbered. They have a 1, a 2, or a 3 on them. So there should be a number inside the holes. And I see it over here. The number 1 slat is nearest to the headboard. The number 2 slat is in the center. And the number 3 slat is nearest to the footboard. So I'm going to grab the number 1 slat. Just kind of rotate my rail around. Now I'm going to slide the other rail in where the slat is inside the hole. And I'm going to work my way towards the footboard. So here's our middle rail. I'm going to have to separate it to get it in. So that may come out temporarily, which it did. Now it's real important that you get the roll right as you're putting this together. As you can see also, there's the word up. We want our slats where the word facing up is up. So I'm putting in my number 3. Now I'm going to try to put this rail in the hole. That fits no problem. So the upper side rails are interchangeable. Doesn't matter which side you put them on. You might think about if you have a log side rail that's got a really neat character feature and you want to show it off, you know, you can position it in a way where it shows it off. So I'm fitting that into the hole. I'm going to support this lower rail with my foot as I spread this apart. Ever so slightly. Now, the way I roll this rail does matter because, as you can imagine, no logs are perfectly straight. So we got to make sure that we don't want a big bow going in towards the mattress. It might keep the mattress from sitting on the slats properly. So I'm going to roll it. Looks like this roll right here is going to work for us. I'm going to give this side a little tap just to get a little bit further in. Now we're going to do the other side. This piece has a really neat character feature, elk rub, that if it's possible, I'd like to show that off. Okay, so I'm supporting lower rail with my foot. There we go. Okay, so now we've got all 4 rails in and the 3 slats in as well. I'm going to give this a little tap. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the bed and make sure it looks fairly square, like the footboard is relatively square to the headboard. And really we're just eyeballing it. I think it needs to go to the left, the footboard, just a little. And now I'm very carefully, I'm going to slide the whole bed back against the wall so my footboard stays intact. Now if you have 2 people, you can do this out away from the wall. If someone's at the headboard, holding up the headboard, someone could be going around and putting the other parts of the bed together. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this cordless drill. I'm going to go about 75% of the way. I want to make sure my cordless drill is on the slow speed. Yeah, I'm going to go till it gets snug. I got to make sure before I screw this in, I got to feel for that center pilot that's inside. It's very important that I hit that pilot before I start screwing in my screw. And you can see when I screwed this in, the rail pulled away. I'm going to back it off, reverse it, and go ahead and drive it again. Sometimes when you do that, it creates its own pilot. We're going to go ahead and do the other side. Yeah, it's a little much for this cordless drill to drive these drive screws all the way in. It's about as far as I'm going to go. Like I said, that's probably about 75% in. So now we need to go ahead and do the headboard, but the way it's set up now, we don't have access. So I have to slide the bed away from the wall to get behind the headboard posts. I'm just going to grab it in the center very carefully because nothing's holding those rails in the headboard right now. Now this may be a little more difficult on a different type of flooring. It's pretty easy for us because we're on concrete. I'll start at the bottom. I want to make sure I like the roll of my top rails. Okay, that's about as far as I can go with the cordless drill. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish these off with an electric drill. I just wanted to show you the option of using the cordless drill, but ultimately the fastest way to do it is to use an electric drill. This happens to be a 1/2 inch drill. And I tell you, you're gonna get a lot of resistance as you tighten this up. So you really wanna have a good grip on this with 2 hands. The other thing I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be watching this rail move into this hole as I'm drilling. I don't wanna go too far. I don't wanna break the lag screw or strip it out. So I wanna continue to drill until I see that rail stop. So I may even back this off just to get started. Okay. We got some resistance there. I'm gonna reverse it just to get a little bit of a run. So now our headboard is good, and I'm going to slide the bed back against the wall, and we're going to go ahead and do the footboard. So when you're here by yourself, the best way to do it is to get in the center of the footboard and just kind of slowly push. So for the footboard, I'm going to just demonstrate using a socket with a socket wrench. And like I said, this is a 9/16 deep socket. And so that's another option. If you had a cordless drill and you have the socket adapter, you can get about 75% of the way, and then you can finish it up with the wrench. I guess the nice thing about the wrench is you have a lot of control. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of keeping an eye on this rail to watch it go inside the hole. You can see it's barely inside the hole on the one side. I'm going to go ahead and get the lower lag screw a little further in as well. Kind of do this together. And if you're not sure, sometimes you just need to look inside the hole to see that the head of the lag screw is up tight against the washer. Now you can see that the screw is pulling the rail into the hole. Now we'll go work on the other side. All right, so now we're in and our bed is complete. It's ready for its box spring. If you happen to have a king bed, there's one more step. Here's an example of a center support. And I may have mentioned earlier that for a queen, we typically do not do a center support, but I wanted to show this as an example. So now that we've put the bed together, we've got the side rails attached to headboard and footboard. We've got the slats in their holes. I'm going to slide this center support underneath. And then rotate it up. Now I've got a slight gap here. So this spindle here, the third spindle in, is the center. So that tells me roughly where the center of the bed is. So I can kind of eyeball the center of the center support. Okay, so I've got some shims here because all flooring is a little different. A log bed is going to sit on carpet differently than it's going to sit on a hardwood floor or a hardwood surface. So it's not always easy to get this center support height exactly right. We've got a little gap there, so I'm just going to take some shims and tap them, set them under there between the slats and the center support, and then do the same for the center and the outside one. Now we've got great support for our boxing mattress. All right, so the last step here is to take our little plugs and we're going to tap them in the holes to cover the lag screws. Depending on whether you think you may be taking this bed apart someday, it kind of dictates how far you want to tap your plugs in. You can put plugs behind the headboard and the headboard post. Most people don't because you never see them, and then that will push your bed away from the wall a little bit. So people will just keep them on hand in case they need them in the future. So here we have it. This is the finished Grizzly queen size log bed.